Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about how I use tools like Notion and Jira as an indie app developer. And I will also talk a bit about agile methods and principles that you can apply as an independent developer. First of all, Notion and Jira, I guess most of you have at least heard of them. But why do I use both of those tools? If we start with Notion, I think it's a good tool to get a good overview as all your actions, so to speak, as an indie developer. I use it using a template from Ivar Meyers that I think is really nice. So I keep track of my in the business in general, so to speak. I'm using the part-time in the app building process that Ivars is sharing. Basically, step 1, capture IDs. Step 2, research and validate ID. Step 3 is build MVP. Step 4 is launch. Step 5 is grow. Step 6 is about monetizing your app, and step 7 is the following maintenance. Check it out on his channel if you want to know more about it in detail. I won't be digging into that, but it's a really nice plan. I think works for me at least. I'm also using a board in Notion where I keep track of my IDs, different app IDs. Just a rough description, what possibly an app name and what problem is it supposed to solve. I collect all my IDs in one column, product ID. Next column is promising, and that's where I put some IDs if they are promising after the validation. And I also have columns for building and released and dropped, where the last one is for those that the validation shows it's probably a bad idea to spend time developing it. So that kind of gives me a good overview of my projects. I also use a page for IDs for YouTube videos and everything related to that, and basically a good overview of everything relating to my indie app developer business, which I do on my spare time. I'm a full-time employee. And Jira, why do I use Jira? You can make boards in Notion as well. Yes, you can. I was thinking about it for a while, but I lack some tools and features like story point estimates. Of course, I could add a field just for that, but there is also burn down charts and stuff that you can generate in Jira that I think is useful. So what I am doing is I have a description of the app, like the one in the product ID, and I move it to the next and the next and the next column while working on it. So I get a good overview in Notion what I am building. But when it comes to the user stories, all the features and the actual building of an app, I used to create a project in Jira, and that's where I go into detail exactly what needs to be done and stuff. But before I go into Jira and show how I work there, I'm gonna recap a bit in case you haven't seen the first video, what I am working on and the plan ahead. So I have my app in the App Store called Priority Task, and it's basically a Kanban app, personal Kanban even. No team related features. So this is for personal use, if you use it for your small business, or if you use it for just everything you need to do in your personal life and family and stuff. It's entirely up to the user. But it's most people would call it a to-do list, I guess, but it's not just check when you are done. It's about visualizing your work, one of the main principles in Kanban, and also limit work in progress. So everything you need to do during, let's say, a day or a week, or however often you want to plan, is collected here. This one should be kept small, as few items as possible, and when you're done, it is collected here. And the backlog is like a long-term storage where you just put everything that comes to your mind as, oh, I have to check this, I have to do this, etc. So it's basically a personal Kanban application, you could say. I made a few mistakes with this one. I put it as a pay upfront application. A big mistake, it turned out. People wanna try it out before they pay. So that's something I'm gonna change. I'm also gonna change this onboarding flow. I don't know if you noticed it, but I have this one basically explaining how to use the app. Very bad idea. I'm going to make a more traditional onboarding, validating that, okay, this was a good choice, and possibly go through some basic settings so they can customize how they want to use it, and then show some kind of paywall where they can start a free trial. This is what I have in the App Store right now. Prioritask. There will be more apps, but at the moment I'm looking into how to turn this around to a freemium app instead. So what about Jira? What is that? If you have been working as a software developer in a team, I guess you are you know your way around Jira, but basically it's a tool that is most usually with Scrum. Scrum and Kanban are two agile methods, where Scrum is more towards software development and Kanban is more like a regular flow, no fixed sprints, etc. It's basically built for teams, but I think it's a nice product to use as an individual independent developer as well. I have my Prioritask projects, and if you go in there, I have no sprint right now. I will start one soon, but you have the backlog where everything to be done is. Unfortunately, this everything is written in Swedish here in my stories, but I will create a new project and show a bit how I work with it. And you have the board and the timeline where you can collect different stories in epics. They are like umbrellas under which you can write stories. But I'm gonna create a new project, I think, for this purpose, and just talk a bit about how I use it. I'm gonna use Scrum. And I go with team managed. I have an idea here. Let me see. There was some system pop up here. I have one idea in my Notion board, and that is a habit tracker. There are habit trackers all over the place in the App Store, but I think every independent developer have one almost, so I'm going to create my own version of it as well. So I just type in habit. Is it 1 or 2b? Habit tracker. Let's go with that. And next. I haven't figured out the name for it even. I don't need that right now. So we have a new project. And where do I start when I'm going to create a new app? Well, user stories is a common practice. And when you're creating user stories, you basically go with who, what, and why. And what is that all about? Why just not write down what you will do, like create a habit class and add a Swift UI view, create habit? Well, there are a couple of reasons that I see. First, don't mix in the solution. Try to stay focused on what the customer need. The customer needs should be in priority and focus here. So if we know who wants something and what they want and why they need it, that is the best way to describe something. If we go in technical details, that might come back and bite us later on, because we are tending to look into a solution to a problem that might then be residing in our backlogs for weeks or months or even years before we implement it. And everything that happen until the point where we are going to start working on that story may actually change what we thought was the best implementation or solution at the time we wrote the story. Might have changed a little or a lot. One example would be like, say we launch an MVP in the iOS App Store, and there is already another iOS app that is established, solving the same problem in a similar way, and the interest is just cold for our app. But in the same time, when we are trying to market it on social media, etc., we notice that Android users are very interested in this, because there is no Android app working just like ours. And if we change to creating it from Swift to, let's say, Flutter Dart or something, if we have planned all our projects with create a Swift UI view, create a class, and too much technical details, that we won't be able to use those stories as they are written, and we have to rewrite them. But if we stay focused on who wants this, what do they want, and why do they want it, we can choose the best implementation when we are dealing with that user story later on. So try to stay away from what you are going to do and keep the focus on the problem or the feature that the user wants and why. So basically, when I have started a project, I used to go to the timeline and that write an epic like app development, and in that epic I am trying to add stories and name them quite general with the why and what, who, what, and why. So we can say like, as a user, I want to be able to create new habits so that I can track them. That could be one user story. Another one could be, as a user, I want to have a dashboard where I can quickly get an overview of my progress with my different habits. And I tried to break it down. Of course, the first would be as a user, I want to be able to track my habits so that I can see that I'm on track or something. That would be describing the whole application, so I'm trying to break these down. Later on, I may break them down even more into smaller parts, because you should be able to complete one of these story within a week or two, depending on how long your sprint time is. But I try to start at least a little bit refined. You can also go open this link. This is like the story text, the title, and I used to describe it a bit further. I used to have requirement specifications. That would be like a title, heading, describe the problem in more detail. So here I kind of clarify what is all this about in the user perspective, not going into what elements or what technique I'm going to use to solve it. The user doesn't care about it. I just want to describe in detail what the user needs. There might be a description here of what, when they create a habit, what details would I like. So basically, what properties would the habit class involve? But I don't write it in a technical way. I just describe what the customer wants to be able to store about their habit. Sometimes I use some, if I already have an idea or have been having a discussion with AI how to solve it, I might add a heading about technical solution, but I try to keep it away from the code and more like a logical flow. What needs to happen to solve this problem? So this story should remain tech spec neutral, so to speak. I need to be able to change from Swift to another language or so without rewriting this story. And the last I used to have is acceptance criteria. That's also a heading. And okay, that went bad. There we go. And this one I like to use bullet points, like show that it is possible to create a new habit. 1B, I need to learn that. Show that the habit, newly created habit, is persisted, and stuff like that. I just fill in the when is it done, my definition of done. And this one needs to be clear. If you are, I don't like that. Okay, that's strange. Just add another space there. There we go. So, required specification, describe the user problem in detail, and acceptance criteria. This is my definition of done. When am I done with this task? If I can show what is written down here, this one should be moved to done later on. If not, I still have work. So as you can see, one user story can involve several things you have to do in the code. Like this one would require some kind of view to create it. It would require some kind of model class to store it, and it would require some kind of persistent storage if you store it in a database with an API, or if you store it in like CloudKit or something, it should get stored. Then you have solved this one. And I also used to estimate it. How much work is it? Story points. I like to go with hours, but it could be any unit that you choose in advance and then stick to it. Like it could be a day of work or something. It might make the estimates easier. But I say this might be 8 hours or something. There we go. And we have it in our backlog. And the backlog is, like I said before, it's like a long-term storage. Everything you think of as a user request or something, that new feature, it should be written in this way and then stored here. Then we have the sprints, and a sprint is a fixed time frame, like 1, 2, or 3 weeks is common, I think. As an indie developer working this on part-time, I tend to go quite low here because I have 8 hours of work per day at my regular work. That I know for sure. But after those 8 hours, I have 2 kids coming home from school and kindergarten, and I don't know how much time I will have 3 weeks from now. It depends. They could get sick or something that ruins my plan. So I tend to plan quite short here, 1 or 2 weeks mostly. And figure out how many hours of work will I be able to do the coming week. I can look in my schedule, what is time consuming, how much can I get aside, and if I realize I can fit in 16 hours of work, I try to drag a total of 16 story points here, and then I start to sprint. So that's basically how I'm working. And I cannot stress enough how important it is that you try to stay focused on the user problem that you need to solve here, instead of how you're going to solve it technically, because what is a good solution with the current state of your app today might be a very bad solution with the state that your app is in let's say 6 months, because you might have changed what kind of persistence you have. You could have moved from core data to Swift data, or the other way around, or you could have even dropped that and handling data through an API because all of your followers have been requesting a web app and you want to have the same persistent storage. So keep it in a user's perspective, and there will be much less frustration ahead. So this is basically how I use it. The timeline you can also see when you plan them in. This one has, I haven't started in a sprint yet, but you will see, like if I go to my prioritize app and to the timeline, I haven't been working with this for a while, but let's see, app development, here we go. If I try to go back in time here. You can see here is where each story has been handled. So you get a pretty good overview of the development process, and in Notion I get a good overview of what I have planned to do with my indie app business, and that might involve other stuff. So Jira for the project and the software development, and Notion for what actions am I going to take as a indie app developer, which app am I working on, and so on. I can see, but not the details. That's kept in Jira. That's about it, I think. If you have any further questions or so, shout it in the comments, and have a good day, everyone.